What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. My name's Kyle. Tonight, November 6th, we're going to get you guys ready for the Week 10 Waiver Wire Report. I'm going to go over all my injuries and, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and defensive ads for today. We will be doing a live Waiver Wire show tomorrow. We're back on normal schedule, so I apologize for Week 9, guys. I was out of town, wasn't able to do my full slate of live shows and all my other shows, but here we are. We're getting into the waiver wire report. There is a link in the description. Otherwise, I'm going to post it in the comments if you guys want to check it out. And what we'll start with first here is the injuries to monitor. There's a ton to go over. Let me just kind of do a little zoom in here. Injuries to monitor at the quarterback position. Justin Fields with the thumb. He's going to be questionable for Thursday Night Football. There's a good chance he plays. I still think he's 50-50. Nothing that I feel is going to lean either way, but Justin Fields hopefully back this week or next week. Matthew Stafford, he's on bye, so fantastic time for him to heal up that thumb. He's likely back week 11. Kyler Murray I have listed as probable, and we did see the head coach Gannon over there say that he's going to start as long as practice goes well this week. So expect Kyler Murray to start this weekend against Atlanta. Daniel Jones, pour one out for the season. The Giants are just in trouble. They also don't have Tyrod Taylor, who's out for a little bit with a rib injury, and he might not even play the rest of the year. So DeVito, the quarterback, the rest of the way, we'll see. Jaron Hall got his chance to start, but he got knocked out of the game with a concussion. Probably not going to see him play anytime soon with Josh Dobbs kind of taking the reins there. Ryan Tannehill, questionable with an ankle, but not sure he's going to be able to get the job back with Will Levis playing well. There's Tyrod Taylor. And then at the running back position, David Montgomery, there were some good blurbs on him today from the head coach saying that he's likely back this weekend. And we're probably not going to see that heavy Monty split with Jahmyr Gibbs that we saw earlier in the year. It might be more like a 60-40 split, but either way, good news for Montgomery owners. Devon Achane on track to return week 11. Kieran Williams also on track to return week 12. They got one more game after the bye week, and then he's back week 12. James Conner could potentially return this weekend. We'll see. They need him with Kyler Murray coming back too. It's kind of exciting for the Cardinals. We should see their offense take a arrow pointing up. Dameon Pierce questionable with that ankle injury he missed last week. They need Dameon Pierce back out there. I know Devin Singletary's not a workhorse back, so they could have used Dameon Pierce last weekend. Khalil Herbert eligible to return with that ankle injury this week. It's a short week again for them, but I saw that they activated him from his practice window. Pour one out for Cam Akers, torn Achilles, out for the season. I wasn't sure if that's the same one that he already ruptured earlier in his career, but not looking good. Cam Akers, we might not see him play any meaningful NFL again. Imari DiMercado, questionable with rib injury. I think with James Conner coming back, that just pushes him back to handcuff duties. Kendre Miller got a little bit more workload this weekend. They actually kind of cooled Alvin Kamara's workload. So we'll monitor Kendre Miller. He continues to look good. He popped off a big catch and run for about 31 yards. I like him. He's going to need, for him to be useful for fantasy, he's going to need an injury to Jamal Williams or Alvin Kamara. You have Jamar Chase popped up today with a back injury. Apparently he heard it later in the game after a deep target. They're listing him as day-to-day. We'll see if he can manage this and be okay with that pain. Justin Jefferson, questionable with that hamstring. He's eligible to return this week. It sounds like it's not a sure thing he plays this weekend, though, so we shall see. You got Deebo Samuel, questionable with the shoulder injury. It sounds like he's on track to play week 10. Christian Watson, upper body injury. He also got checked for concussion, but no significant damage there. He's going to be listed as questionable. I think he's probably doubtful for week 10 against the Steelers. Drake London, it sounds like they're opportunistic about him being able to play this weekend. So with that groin injury, we'll watch his practice reports. Now, rookie wide receiver Josh Downs, I'm labeling him as questionable for this week. He could be out a little bit, though. It didn't look good. We'll see. Hopefully it's nothing serious. I didn't hear anything about IR, but it might be a multi-week injury for Josh Downs. We'll watch for his reports this weekend. And then Josh Palmer was placed on IR. The Chargers are playing tonight, so that counts as one of the games that he can be out. So week 13, he could be back. KJ Osborne left with a concussion, probably not going to play this week. We'll watch for his reports. Talk about an extra guy or two that you could pick up if Osborne this weekend. Curtis Samuel didn't play with the toe injury. We'll see about his reports this weekend, traveling to Seattle. Traylon Burks got knocked out with that nasty concussion. Probably not going to see him this weekend, but we'll see. Zay Jones, he's been out for a while, but I think you could probably snag him and add him to the end of your bench and see what happens. Maybe he doesn't play this weekend, but he's coming soon, fresh off the bye week. Alan Lazard was questionable going into tonight's game with a knee injury. We'll watch for that and see if he re-injures it or anything like that. Robert Woods remains questionable with a foot injury. Now, Michael Wilson's a guy that I like adding in deeper leagues. He didn't play yesterday with a shoulder injury. He's going to be questionable for week number 10 here, but I like stashing him with Kyler Murray back. Devontae Parker is still questionable with that concussion. We'll probably see Devontae Parker back this week. TJ Hawkinson popped up with a rib oblique thing. He's questionable. It doesn't sound too serious, but I just wanted to note it. The big one for tight ends this week was Dallas Goedert, fractured wrist, likely out 4 weeks /IR. Now, the Eagles are on bye this weekend, so if it is a 4-week injury, maybe he avoids IR and he just misses the bye week plus the next, 2-3 games. So we'll watch for Dallas Goedert. It's unfortunate. He was starting to kind of come around and be a top 5, top 10 tight end. Darren Waller, hamstring on IR. We might not see him play the rest of the year the way the Giants season's going. Pat Freiermuth does return, though, next week. So if he's available in your leagues, he's worth a stash, especially if you had Goddard. Zach Ertz could come back week 12, Dawson Knox back week 12, and maybe Greg Dulcich back week 12. So we have some tight ends returning at some point. But yeah, it was a pretty rough day for injuries yesterday. And then we'll get to my favorite ads real quick. At quarterback, and again, I'm going to go over all these in more detail, but at quarterback, I like Jared Goff. I saw Jared Goff was dropped in a lot of leagues down to 70% owned in ESPN, so I put him on the list. But Goff, Howell, Kyler Murray, Geno Smith, Derek Carr, and Baker Mayfield are my top QB ads for the week. At running back, you want Keaton Mitchell. We'll talk about him more in depth soon, but he's the guy that's widely available in pretty much every league. I think he should be added just for what he did yesterday. But otherwise, Jalen Warren still low. Chuba Hubbard still too low. Khalil Herbert too low. Singletary, Foreman, Gibson had a nice day. Gibson starting to turn it around, and then you can stash handcuffs here. At receiver, Tank Dell was dropped the last couple weeks. Jahan Dotson as well. These guys need to be picked up. Rashee Rice, Jackson Smith, and Najigba, Quentin Johnson, and then in deeper formats, Demario Douglas and Khalil Shakir could be added. At tight end, again, if you have Dallas Goedert or Darren Waller, you're looking squarely at Jake Ferguson, Taysom Hill. That's Logan Thomas, Trey McBride, Luke Musgrave, and Cade Otton with a big game yesterday. And then for defenses, I like the Jets, Steelers, Packers, and Buccaneers if you need to add someone this weekend. And then I do have a list of deeper league ads if you guys want to check that out for yourself. It's kind of, hit or miss with some of these guys, but in 12-team or deeper leagues, check out that list there. Let's look at the quarterbacks for the week here. I do have a list of quarterbacks that should be rostered. And again, I mentioned Jared Goff. He was dropped over his bye week by a decent amount, down to 70.3% on ESPN League. So he would be the pickup if I can get it. But I do want to note, with David Montgomery back, that means probably a little bit less touchdown upside on Jared Goff, as they do like to run it in with David Montgomery. Sam Howell continues to play. I think he's QB6 on the year. Now, they haven't had their bye week, so he's more like QB10, I think. But at Seattle, it's a good matchup for Sam Howell. Deshaun Watson playing better. It's at Baltimore, though, so I don't know if I like that spot. Geno Smith, he's been struggling, but he's at home against Washington. We know the Washington Commanders let up a lot of points to wide receivers and quarterbacks, so I don't hate the spot start for Geno. Jordan Love at Pittsburgh, not a big fan of it, but he's been pretty steady. Russell Wilson at Buffalo, again, not a fan of it, but hey, he could be a decent QB1 streamer. Now, I do like Baker Mayfield at Tennessee. Actually, is that game at Tennessee? That game's at home for Tampa Bay, so I'll update that. But Baker Mayfield at home has been playing well. Will Levis at Tampa Bay, probably not. Again, Kyler Murray, I don't want to start him right away week 1 unless it's super flex leagues, but he should be added. And then I do like streaming Derek Carr. And the rest down here are more like super flex plays. I do want to say Josh Dobbs needs to be picked up if he was dropped in super flex leagues. Bryce Young at Chicago is a decent super flex spot. And then Zach Wilson, man, we might see him play pretty well tonight. He could be of interest to us. Mac Jones versus Indianapolis, maybe. I do like Taylor Heineke at Arizona. They already named him the starter for week 10. And then just some bottom of the barrel super flex ads for you guys down here. And then the stashes for Superflex. You can still hold on to Desmond Ridder. I'm still open to holding on to Badgett because he played well yesterday. But otherwise, the guy to keep an eye on is Drew Lock. With Geno Smith struggling and the Seahawks still kind of, in the thick of the playoffs in the NFC West, Lock could get some plays at some point. If Geno were to drop this game against the Commanders, maybe. We'll see. So take a look at the list. If you guys want to stash some of those guys, go for it. Let's move on to the running back position here. I did kind of tier it here. So the guys at the top are probably picked up, but A.J. Dillon continues to look okay. Kareem Hunt still in the mix with Cleveland. But Jalen Warren, only 65% owned. He needs to be picked up if he's available in your 10-man league. Khalil Herbert, again, returning from week I think he's returning week 10 or 11. We'll see. But he needs to be picked up. And then Chuba Hubbard, with him being the starter now, he should be more than 53% rostered. But again, all those guys are probably owned in your deeper or in your, your more competitive 10 or 12-man leagues. Now, guys that might be available in your league, Devin Singletary, He's going to be, still in a 50-50 split with Dameon Pierce when he returns. Algier is still somewhat of a handcuff to Bijan. I still think Deonta Foreman, though, has some play. I think of all the Bears backs, I'm more interested in keeping Deonta Foreman right now. He's got the majority of the touches yesterday, and he could be the lead back even when Herbert returns. So keep an eye on Foreman if he was dropped. Otherwise, Roschon Johnson, it's probably not happening for him with Herbert back. But Antonio Gibson, man, he's had 5 receptions in each of the last 2 games. I think his average PPR points per game is around 9 point something in the last 5 weeks. So he's trending up at least. Zeke Elliott, just a deep stash. DeMercado, just a stash handcuff. It's probably not happening for Jeff Wilson with Raheem Mostert healthy and Devon Achane coming back next week. McKinnon, just a low-end PPR stash. But continue stashing these rookie running backs as well. If they're picked up, that's fine. But otherwise, if they're available, please make sure they're stashed on the end of your bench. And Gainwell still remains a stash. If anything happens to DeAndre Swift, you got something there. And then the ad of the week is Keaton Mitchell. I know he did most of his damage when the game was out of control, but he was getting carries in the second quarter. And he looks like he's going to be a part of the offense going forward. So maybe you don't start him this weekend against the tough Cleveland Browns, but I'm open to adding Keaton Mitchell and seeing where it goes. And then we just got some deep stash handcuffs, guys that are RB2s on their team. I think Elijah Mitchell sticks out to me in the 49ers offense. We like that. You can maybe add Josh Kelly. We know he's the RB2 behind Eckler. Leonard Fournette, if you're patient enough, he could be viable come December. I like the rookie Kendra Miller, maybe Tank Bigsby. Dowdle's the clear backup to Tony Pollard. And then I noted Ty Chandler here in bold just because he's going to be back as the RB2 in Minnesota. It sounds like Madison's fine, though, so we'll see about that. But with Cam Akers out, Ty Chandler's probably going to step back into some kind of role as the RB2. And then let's move on to receivers. I did the same thing with kind of tiering it a little bit. These top 5 receivers would be priority if they're available. Jahan Dotson. If someone drops Josh Downs, I'm willing to pick him up and slide him into my IR if I have that option. Rashee Rice, Tank Dell, Jackson Smith, and the Jigba. It's the year of the rookie receivers right now, man. They're all trending in the right direction. Obviously, Tank Dell had the huge game yesterday against the Buccaneers. He looks really good. Try and add a rookie receiver here if you can. Otherwise, with the Jamar Chase injury, Tyler Boyd should be picked up as an emergency. Romeo Doubs continues to play well. And the other thing with Romeo Doubs is if Christian Watson's out for a week or so, depending on the severity of his injury, Doubs could step into the number 1 target role again. Odell Beckham had a nice game yesterday. Elijah Moore is just not really happening. He's like a fringe rosterable guy. I do want to pick up Curtis Samuel if he was dropped, and then we'll see about Quentin Johnston tonight. It's a tough matchup against the Jets, but hey, with Palmer on IR for the next 4 games, might have something here with QJ. Rashid Shaheed, just the deep end stash. Juju actually played okay yesterday too. He hit double digits in PPR points. He's worth the deeper look. And then I really liked Demario Douglas still. I think he's more steady and dependable. They're going to funnel him with targets, and he looks good still. And then there's A. Jones for you. Now, deeper stashes at the wide receiver position. You come on down here and you're going to see Michael Wilson, Khalil Shakir, Donovan Peoples-Jones. And then I did want to note Tavian Wicks. Monitor that Watson injury. If Watson's out, Wicks is going to step into that number 3 wide receiver role. He looks good. And then Jalen Tolbert down here. He actually kind of hopped Michael Gallup yesterday in terms of playing time. Gallup's play time has gone down the last couple games here. Tolbert was out there, in the fourth quarter and making some of the big plays to get the Dallas Cowboys back in the game. So keep an eye on him. Again, with Watson, I like Jaden Reed. Continue to monitor some of these rookies down here as these stash plays. But Michael Wilson with Kyler Murray coming back. Khalil Shakir, I'm curious, who scores more points the rest of the season, Shakir or Gabriel Davis? I don't know the answer to that. And then the fun one is DPJ here for the new receiver here on the Detroit Lions. He could step in as their number 3 receiver, which I like quite a bit. And then keep an eye on Noah Brown. As long as Bob Woods is out, Brown's going to be out there as a wide receiver 3. Tight ends, I did note that these guys should be owned. Don't drop Dallas Goedert. You can maybe drop Darren Waller if you're in a pinch, but don't drop Dallas Goedert yet. We know he's still a good player when healthy. But otherwise, the state of the tight ends, man, it's Jake Ferguson this week. He's the hot pickup. Otherwise, Taysom Hill. If you can't get Taysom Hill, go get Jake Ferguson. These guys are my 2 favorite ads of the week. Otherwise, you can maybe go get Trey McBride, Logan Thomas, Pat Freiermuth. Again, he's been dropped heavily in a lot of leagues here. Otherwise, Jonnu Smith, maybe Gerald Everett. We'll see about his participation tonight as kind of the number 3 target in the offense. Luke Musgrave finally had a touchdown last weekend. He looked good. And then Cade Otton down here for Tampa Bay had a breakout game. So a couple tight ends on the waiver wire for you if you need someone for Goddard or Waller. And then defenses here, I did note that these defenses should be owned, and these defenses are kind of right here. The Cowboys are the best play of the week here at home against the Giants. That's going to be a bloodbath here, but these are all solid plays here at the top of the list. But if you need a waiver wire defense this weekend, the Jets only 65% owned. They could be available, but it's the Packers and the Buccaneers. Going up against a rookie Will Levis, Tampa Bay, still a decent defense. That could be a nice home matchup for the Bucs D. And then the Packers at Pittsburgh. I did note the Steelers are a play as well, but they're higher owned. But the Packers defense played well despite, I don't care if it was Brett Rippon. They still played pretty well last night and only allowed 3 points to the Rams. So keep an eye on them. Otherwise, the Seahawks going up against Sam Howell. He's good for a turnover and a handful of sacks. Maybe the Patriots against Gardner Minshew. We'll see here. But there you go. That is the waiver wire report for week number 10. I will be doing a live show tomorrow evening, 7 p.m. Central Time. If you guys want to come hang out, we'll go over any questions you guys have for me, and we'll look at the waiver wire together. And maybe I'll have more answers and some updates to the waiver wire article as well. But here we are, week 10. We have 5 weeks left of the regular season. Let's get to it, guys. Have a good night. Peace.